Hello indie game fans, we are heading into the home stretch for the year, and with a relatively thin AAA release schedule unlike other years, November is packed with indie game gems instead that deserve a spot on your radar, from slick visuals to very compelling game design. So let's begin with Neon Blood, a cyberpunk RPG set in the year 2053, where you play as an ex-police detective in the city of Viridis, having a duality to it in the luxurious Bright City and the dangerous Blind City. Our hero is sick of the corruption and power imbalance in the city and makes it his mission to overthrow the established order, starting a revolution in the process. The highlight here has to be the pixel art and neon visuals, which look awesome, giving you free rein to explore the city in an adventure game kind of way, but that is combined with turn-based JRPG style combat, which I do enjoy and will be for fans of detective RPGs and cyberpunk. Another pixel art title that I have my eye on is Spirit Mancer, which comes to us from a developer out of Thailand, so Southeast Asia represent, being a side-scrolling action platformer where you step into the shoes of a demon hunter who was accidentally teleported into the demon realm of Inferno, now having to slash and shoot your way through in order to defeat the Demon Queen, find a mystical key, and to open a portal back to your world. The kicker with this game is that you're able to defeat and capture demons, where they then take the form of cards, being able to call upon them in battle in some absolutely pixelated chaos, since there are over 100 spirits to capture and use, along with a variety of weapons and abilities. Furthermore, it also has 2-player co-op support and even mini-games like fishing in between missions, not to mention the absolutely gorgeous pixel art in the characters, enemies, and even environments and backgrounds, making this a no-brainer pick. Here's an interesting looking title which had a successful Kickstarter campaign named Nightstones, an action-adventure title that kind of looks like a Zelda game but more resembles a short hike, even though it does have some light combat, which is described as puzzle combat by the developer. You are exploring the magical island of Mythica, where enchanting stones hold the power to change day into night, where you're on a journey to find your way home. Of course, the vibrant art and landscapes are one of the highlights, looking oh so cozy, and thus hide secrets to uncover as well. Having an almost Link's Awakening remake kind of art style which looks neat, you will get access to tools like a glider and a boat, so the exploration around the handcrafted island looks fun, having real-time combat, but is more about setting traps and using magic to take out your enemies instead of swinging a sword around. There will be quirky characters to meet which you need to help to gain their trust, and looks like an interesting take on the cozy adjacent space. Hollow Knight with guns seems like the shorthand description for Last Vanguard, a game which I have been banging on and on about, where the developer had to fight through 2 unsuccessful Kickstarter attempts to get the game to the state it is in today, which I'm guessing involves taking day jobs elsewhere and working nights and weekends unpaid on this game, which might be more common than you might think for indie developers. This is a Metroidvania shooter platformer with a gorgeous hand-drawn art style set in a war-ravaged world ruled by an evil tyrant. You are using your guns and abilities to battle what seems like largely mechanical or robotic enemies, uncovering the mysteries of the world along the way as well. The UI elements do look a little bit rough in the trailer, but this is early access after all, so here's wishing the developers all the best, since it sure seems like a passion project to me. If you're into detective puzzle games, a title of interest would be Mindcop, where a shocking murder has taken place, and as the infamous Mindcop himself, you must use your abilities to figure out who the murderer is within 5 days. The developer describes this as a non-linear whodunit detective game, so I'm guessing that it's pretty open in where you can go, who you can talk to, and what you're going to ask them, but does funnel into 2 endings, so I'm guessing there is a canon killer and it doesn't randomly change to another character like in Cluedo on subsequent playthroughs. The mind diving part results in real-time puzzle gameplay, where if successful, you will be able to explore their sea of thoughts for clues and insights. As with most detective games, you need to unravel lies and uncover secrets in order to get closer to the truth, having a cool, jazzy vibe to the game as well.
Now back to our
Here's a cool roguelike deck builder tactics title named Towers of the Bayou, in which you lead a group of courageous toads on a mission to confront the sinister Baron Smeddy and his dark forces. The Bayou, or the area around Louisiana, USA, has a rich culture and folklore that draws upon Haitian voodoo, which is always an interesting setting. Trapped in a cursed bayou, these toads battle enemies in tactical turn-based combat, but are limited in their attacks through the use of cards, having 3 distinct toads, each possessing unique traits and abilities which adds variety. In terms of meta progression in between runs, your central hub area is a tavern which you can upgrade, being a home base for allies which act as the upgrade stations for a game like this. This is not an early access release and will have over 50 cards, 20 support toads and 22 traps, having an awesome pixel art style as well and should be good. Just a quick one here in Lost But Found, a hidden object job simulation title that has you playing as an airport officer in charge of Lost and Found, having to attend to passengers in a timely fashion by finding the right item. It looks adorable and adds in job simulation elements, since you get rewarded when you return items and can use this amount of money to purchase upgrades to improve your efficiency. Alternatively, you could pretend not to see said item and keep it for yourself to sell on the black market, so it is not all that cute and cozy, even if you can play this game as one, looking like a fascinating mix of ideas that is certainly worth checking out. And if you're curious, its demo from the Steam Nix Festival is still up, so you can give that a go. One look at Arcane Wilds and I had to show it off, since this is a Western fantasy real-time strategy game, and not Western in the sense of Warcraft 3 or made by a Western developer, but like Wild West kind of setting and time period with a dose of magic. Interestingly, it will have procedurally generated maps as well as survival elements, since resources gathered will remain near the location where it was harvested and needs to be transported back to your main base if you want to use it, rather than magically adding to your resource stockpiles, leading to further strategy in terms of raids and interception of supply wagons. There are also mystical creatures to battle and even co-op support, so I don't think that they are going for your ultra sweaty StarCraft 2 kind of RTS, but is going for something different instead, which is probably a smart idea for an indie team, having 3 factions to play as, but I'm interested in this structure, if there's some sort of campaign, or if it is all just randomly generated like in the sandbox mode for They Are Billions. Developer Joe Richardson is back with Death of the Reprobate, a humorous point-and-click adventure game that uses classical Renaissance paintings as the backgrounds and characters, which is the same as his previous title, Four Last Things and the Procession to Calvary. In this game, Immortal John is dying, and as the last surviving heir, you're called upon to fulfill his dying wish. This is an adventure game about being a nice lad, of helping a cast of weird and quirky characters and admiring the beauty of the art. That is, until the devil gets involved, so there seems to be a larger narrative at play here. But if his previous games are anything to go by, this should put a smile on your face with the absurdity of some of the situations that you will encounter. There are quite a number of adventure games next month for some reason, where of course Mercury Abbey caught my eye due to the pixel art, having a dual protagonist setup and telling a mysterious tale. I'm pretty sure that this is from a Chinese developer, and for some reason the Steam store page description seems to be machine translated or something, so it's kind of strangely written and difficult to understand, so here's the gist as far as I can tell. The central location in this game is a mysterious mansion enveloped in mist, where a curse from the alchemist and the fairy has activated once again. and it is up to our heroes to solve the mystery. There's a mysterious abbey up in the mountains with some spooky monk types around, so you need to investigate strange occurrences, solve puzzles, and collect a variety of items, learning character backstories and legendary tales. Every decision impacts your path, leading to an array of achievements and discovery, where the pixel art is on point, enhanced by the use of lighting, so it's a very pretty game for sure, so I can only hope that the translation and localization are good for this game to make sense. Another fan favourite title is Trash Goblin, a shopkeeping management sim which had a tremendously successful Kickstarter campaign in which you play as a goblin which specialises in uncovering, cleaning and upcycling trinkets for a diverse array of colourful customers. This is a cozy simulation game which encourages creativity and strategy, adding a tactile feel to the game since you are first chiseling away at the junk with your tool, cleaning it with brushes and sponges, and finally repairing and upcycling them by painting to create something new and beautiful. There are over 50 unique trinkets, various quests, challenges, and 15 quirky NPCs, along with a progression loop of upgrading your tools and expanding your business to new districts, looking very charming indeed, and I'm curious as to where this goes in early access.
At last, we've returned to our ancestral land, Aghasba. It all begins with a colossal seed.
Here's quite the curiosity in Towers of Aghasba, a very pretty looking third-person open-world building game in which your people were forced to flee their homeland due to a dark force known as the Withered. And now, it is up to you to rebuild and reclaim your rightful home of the fantastical island of Aghasba. Curiously, while it looks like a survival crafting title, it doesn't appear to have survival elements like hunger or thirst, but rather you are simply building and restoring the island and ecosystem, including some fantastic looking creatures. The island is filled with ancient ruins to explore, with a certain sense of cleansing beauty as you fight back the Withered and restore the land, with the beautiful visuals certainly helping as well. Of course, you'll be gathering resources, crafting tools, and constructing settlements, meeting a cast of diverse characters and weird creatures, all while maintaining a delicate balance with nature. It also has co-op support, so you can build together with friends and flex your creativity, also having some light combat elements, so there's a little bit of everything in this title. A cute looking title that might hide some strategic deviousness is Dungeon Inn, in which you play as an ambitious innkeeper who has struck a deal with a dragon, allowing her to open up shop and operate her inn at the very strategic location at the mouth of the dungeon. As adventurers from rival guilds flocked to your establishment, you need to cater to their diverse needs while preventing conflicts between these competing groups, trying to keep them apart as much as possible, but when they inevitably clash, you can put your finger on the scale one way or the other and have to be fairly even-handed to quell suspicions that you are playing both sides. Of course, you need to manage resources wisely, attract more guests and upgrade facilities to meet their demands, since that will directly affect your profitability, with the end goal simply being to stay in business and to be as profitable as you can, so capitalism ho, even in medieval fantasy times. I've mentioned Sorry We're Closed quite a few times as of late, so I'll try to be brief, in which this joins a growing trend of indie survival horror titles, but is a much more bizarre take on the genre, in which our heroine has been cursed by a demon and must find a way to lift it. In addition to the fixed camera angles that the genre is known for, this has first-person shooting action as well, enhanced by the ability to open your third eye to reveal weak points as well as to uncover parts of the world in exploration. There are residents of the cursed London borough to help or hinder, which will result in different endings with a very strange otherworldly vibe to this game. From the developer of the very well received 4X strategy title Warhammer 40k Gladius, comes ZEPHON, their own unique IP, which means that Games Workshop doesn't get a cut of the revenue of this game, being a post-apocalyptic 4X strategy game, in which you command survivors in a chaotic future filled with eldritch horrors and cyberpunk monstrosities. Interestingly, this has a more involved base building element, where your city is not just one tile on the map, but can grow and evolve into a sprawling metropolis, even having build orders to learn, so it's a different take on the genre. Of course, the tactical turn-based strategy combat is the highlight and looks intriguing, having over 50 unique units to learn and combine in strategic ways. The game also features 3 separate paths to follow in human, voice, and cyber, with, I presume, large variation in tactics and strategy, having unique leader characters for special abilities as well. I'm not usually a 4X person, but Gladius is good enough for this to be of note, so especially if you're a 4X fan, this is the title to get. I first caught wind of this game on Iron Pineapple's YouTube channel, where he even said that it was a stretch to call this a Souls-like, so let's go with action-adventure platformer instead, in which anthropomorphic animals do battle in a surreal world. I like the throwback art style, of course, where the game allows you to create your own character with a choice between 5 animal races and 3 primary classes, having some questionable sliders that probably gives it its mature content warning label, and interestingly was designed with online co-op in mind, although you will be able to play solo, with this early access launch containing about 25% of the planned content for the full game, including the first overworld zone and 2 dungeons, but is the work of a solo developer, so maybe keep expectations in check. Surprise! If you're not deeply tuned into indie games, you might have missed the news that ASTRONEER is getting a paid DLC named Glitchwalkers, which has a release date next month, and while not technically a new game, like Factorial Space Age, there is a base of players that is so large that even a DLC launch could be massive. This introduced a new system to explore, in which there is a central antagonist here in a rogue ASTRONEER, where players need to mix old and new technology to deal with the new challenges. This is their first official expansion and gives longevity to the game, with other unannounced content and free updates for the base game to come as well. We also have the sequel to a popular detective adventure game from 2022 named The Case of the Golden Idol, one that has an almost ad-libs kind of way of deducing the mystery as you slot words into places so that the passage makes sense, and in The Rise of the Golden Idol, this central mechanic makes a return. This is set 300 years after the events of the first game, and is somewhere in the 1970s, in which the main character is a relic hunter on a quest to find a powerful artifact. This will have 20 cases to solve, which is plenty, where your role as an observer allows you to construct your own theories and interpretations of the evidence, making every decision crucial to progressing through the story. The visuals of this game are also much easier on the eyes as compared to the original, perhaps intentionally so to mark the change in time period, but still, given the quality of the first game, this should be great as well. We also have the early access release of Temtem Swarm, a Vampire Survivors style bullet heaven roguelite spin-off of the turn-based monster taming RPG with MMO elements Temtem, a game which was tremendously successful to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, and are putting their spin on this genre. Of course, you can choose from various Tems to play as, each with special abilities, and in monster taming game fashion, these creatures can evolve through the course of a run. This has co-op support with friends, mini-bosses and boss battles against powerful Tems, ultimate attacks and abilities, and of course, a catch-em-all aspect to the game, so given the IP, pedigree and interest in this game, has the potential to be another big hit. It's the end of the year, so we will see an increase in the number of early access titles since these games are not gunning for Game of the Year consideration in 2024, but nonetheless want to get started with their community, with another such release being Lost Eidolons' Veil of the Witch, a roguelite tactical RPG that is the follow-up to a tactics game from 2022. This is a standalone title, so no prior knowledge of the previous game is required, where you are stranded on a mysterious island after a shipwreck and have to face a world filled with dangers. Luckily or unluckily, you will be guided by a witch with unclear motives as you gather allies, fight formidable enemies, and uncover your past. The strategic, grid-based combat emphasizes skill synergies and environmental interactions, similar to the first game, with roguelite randomization to keep things fresh. Plus, you have 9 playable characters, persistent upgrades that carry over between runs, 200 plus skills, 30 plus relics and more, looking to be another fantastic entry in the space. We also have the early access release of Unreal 2 back on track. The sequel to a cooperative, multiplayer title from 2020, which was very popular, where you and your friends need to build the track while the train is moving, scrambling to gather resources and even deal with enemies and bosses while making your way through procedurally generated levels. There will be permanent character upgrades as well as new train engines, wagons and extensions to unlock, adding variety to every play session. If you like to build levels in games, there is a built-in terrain conductor mode that enables players to craft their own maps and share them with the community, so let's see if there will be fun levels created. And to top it all off, on top of the default co-op mode, there's also 8-player 4v4 versus mode for a more challenging experience, and given how good the first game is, this will be worth a play. Another long-in-development title makes it to an early access release in Rogue Command, a roguelite real-time strategy title which adds modern roguelite features to the classic genre. Each run presents as a unique challenge where you can shape your build by choosing from units and building blueprint cards after each battle, with these being upgradable so you get a unique build for every run. For the gameplay, this is standard RTS stuff, so you'll be harvesting resources, constructing your base, and commanding troops to fight the enemy. There are new Commander Engineer units to unlock, as well as buildings and specialists, all of which will alter your strategy and approach, and with over 100 units, buildings, and modifiers, will have plenty of replayability. There are also Ascension-style difficulty levels for extra challenge, and you can even slow down time to 10% to keep in control of the action while commanding your units, and it's one of the games that I've been looking forward to, so here's wishing the developers all the best. I knew I had to check out Luma Island the moment I laid eyes on it, since this is a cozy farming life sim action-adventure title, so as a fan of games like Stardew Valley, of course this has my attention. You are exploring a vibrant island, alone or with friends, starting with a simple caravan, but can build up to a majestic manor, and you do so by farming, fishing, and exploring the island to uncover its mysteries. There are locals to help, quests to take on, and plenty of resource gathering and crafting systems, as you get better equipment to adventure in spider caves and fight monsters as well. Of course, this follows in the footsteps of games like Fantasy Life and Core Keeper, but is doing their own thing with the art style and looks like an absolute delight. I had a feeling that Tower Factory would be something special when I first saw it, since in this game, you build and upgrade a factory to produce towers that fend off waves of enemies, combining tower defense with strategic resource management, and that also compelling factory automation element with conveyor belts, of course. This is a roguelite, so there are procedurally generated maps which adds fresh challenges each run, requiring you to locate and destroy the enemy castle before their forces grow too strong. The early access version will have over 30 buildings, including factory buildings and towers, and more than 60 upgrades, where its demo was very well received during the Steam Next Festival, which puts it very high up on my wishlist. Alright, you got me here. This is not an indie game in the purest sense, since it uses the Metal Slug IP from SNK, but is technically being made by an indie developer and French publisher .emu, who has an excellent track record with licensed titles such as with Streets of Rage 4. so the heart wants what the heart wants, and Metal Slug Tactics is my most anticipated title of the month. This reimagines the run-and-gun action into a turn-based tactical roguelite, blending nostalgia from returning characters, enemies, units, and even sound effects with fresh gameplay. Not exactly being for fans of the original, but if you have broadened out your gaming taste to include strategy games, this should be of note. Interestingly, this has a campaign mode with handcrafted maps, so levels are not procedurally generated, but has that roguelite style of die and retry gameplay loop, which I believe comes in the form of loadouts to experiment with, including 36 different weapons and 176 weapon mods. Our heroes also have special abilities and can even combo together in sync attacks to deal massive damage, with environmental interactions such as the ability to blow up bridges, changing the battlefield and tactics required. Of course, the pixel art is one of the main draws for me, and looks like an excellent one of these, which, dare I say, might be potential Game of the Year material. Watch this video for the best pixel art indie games.